Welcome to foundersmetal.com, the place where inspirational founders share their battle stories.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Founders Metal. Today, I'm greatly honored to be joined by Allon Raiz of Raiz. Allon, in addition to being a BCom graduate, has an incredible history of entrepreneurship. He founded, I believe, 2 or 3 businesses. Many of them failed. And he's now the founder of a very successful for-profit incubator model called Raiz, as I mentioned, as well as a media personality. I think you have your own TV show. So, Allon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Allon, let's start at the beginning. What inspired you to found Raiz, especially having had a number of mixed experiences in entrepreneurship beforehand?
Well, there's a couple of ways to answer that. The one way would be it was a mistake. Okay. The other was it was a necessity, and the other it was inspiration. So if I try and put that all into one quick story, it was that I was involved in a business which I hated. I did not like. I did not enjoy it. I did well in it, but it was eating my soul. And I had turned around 2 small businesses already, and I was still working with them, and I really enjoyed that. And I just one day decided to resign from as a shareholder and the largest shareholder and director of a business. Without the ability to sell my equity for 2 years and to start what was to become Raiz. So the mistake was that it was not, it just happened literally in one day, and it was just a function of just my soul being eaten away.
In saying that, I think that you touch on one of the reasons why a lot of people start businesses, that they just don't feel like where they currently are is the right place for them to be. But why didn't you shift into maybe another job? What made you feel sure that this was what you wanted to do?
I wasn't sure. I don't think anyone's ever sure. I enjoyed it. I felt I was good at it. I hadn't worked out how to make money from it, but I knew I would. And it was much harder than I thought. I thought I would make money from it a lot sooner. But I made some very rookie mistakes, some very classical entrepreneurial mistakes, which I try today to share with other startup businesses for them to avoid the mistakes that I had made. And that was underestimating how long it would take for traction, underestimating the cash required, underestimating the effort, underestimating most things in terms of that journey. So I didn't know. And it took me 5 years and 2 months to become profitable, and that was a daily struggle of between feeling inspired by what you do, but having the reality of not having any cash every day and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. And as a pioneer in the industry in South Africa, it was also the inability to articulate to anyone else what it was that I was doing, because it was so new. The concept of incubation in South Africa 17 years ago was, today everyone knows the terminology. In those days, it was about chickens and babies. It wasn't about businesses.
And I think that you actually answered my next question around that, which was, what was your greatest challenge in starting up Raiz? And I think you mentioned them, sort of underestimating the effort, the time, as well as the cash needed.
Yeah.
What would be your learnings from that and your advice to budding entrepreneurs or those who just started?
I think one of the common mistakes that I see, and as I said, I was party to that mistake as well, is that we underestimate whatever you think your break-even will be. Make sure that you anticipate it being double that. If you think it's going to be 12 months before you break even, then plan for 24 months. If you think that your revenue is going to be X, plan for half X. If you think your costs are going to be Y, plan for Y plus 50%. Your costs are mostly underestimated. Your revenue is always overestimated. and therefore your turnout, your revenue.
You were speaking about sort of.
Oh, the positive, right? So it's important to see what's still valid, because things change. The rules change, the market changes, everything keeps changing. And what was not true before could be true now, and what was true now is very often not true anymore. So I ask my managers every year in particular, but very often during the year, to ask themselves the question, what is not serving you anymore? Like what stories that you believe doesn't serve you anymore? And what is not true anymore? Okay. And by just sort of reflecting on that quite deeply, they find that a whole bunch of things, that processes, thoughts, models that they so dearly held on to are just not true anymore. And that allows the space for newness to come in. Because if you hold on to the old truths, the old things that don't serve you, then you have no space for anything new. So that's really my big push with my management and leadership team.
And I think we can all learn from that to periodically take a step back and assess what we're holding on to that is not helping us, and what beliefs are not true any longer, and then from that be able to move forward, rather than maybe spinning wheels and stay in the same place, or worse, regress and go back because you're holding on to outdated thoughts and ideas, right? So that's really valuable. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I'll move on to a section I like to call the crucible, where I sort of delve into what I think are some crucial fundamental issues that affect most entrepreneurs. And the first one is confidence. What gave you the confidence to feel like you could do this? You was it your previous experiences doing well in other businesses? Because
that's a good question. Confidence is a complex subject, and but if I go to where I think that came from, was that in my personal story, I had a mentor, a benefactor, who in my 20s found me, supported me. I failed and supported me again. This man was a multi-billionaire, treated me as an equal, mentored me at the same time. And so when I went out selling to people, I was in my early 20s or mid-20s, and people were in their 40s at the time, which, for a 25-year-old is an old person. And these people kept being stumped by why I wasn't intimidated by them. And the mental model I had in my head was that if my mentor, who was a billionaire, treated me with respect and dignity and as an equal, then who are you to treat me any other way? So I never walked in with a fear mindset, with a I'm from a positional point of view that there's a power differential between the two of us. It was two people who happened to be different ages who were talking about the same thing. That confidence then creates a sale, and when you sell, it equals success at some point, and that equals more confidence.
Wow.
So you get into a virtuous cycle, and the problem with that is that I think many entrepreneurs, and I see it particularly amongst young entrepreneurs, and it happened to me, become arrogant, because what you now have all this positive reinforcement. Everything you do seems to work until it doesn't, and that's I think a journey that it's very hard to tell a young entrepreneur who's successful not to flash and not to be that guy. They have to go through that journey themselves. But I think those that are self-reflective are able to maybe tone it down a bit and not take the full pain of the repercussions of arrogance.
Wow, that's incredibly valuable, because you just took my question, answered it, but also showed another light where confidence can become excessive and become a negative for you, and how you've seen it become that. What about having a mentor as well? Does that help to keep you grounded?
The right mentor.
The right mentor.
This mentorship thing has become very in vogue. The coaches and the mentors have become like everyone wants one, everyone has one. But to me, the mentorship that you should seek is tough, harsh, real, authentic mentorship, and not politically correct mentorship. So what I mean by that is that if you mess up, it's very well to say, "Oh, Patrick, it's good that you tried. Let's focus on you trying that you tried." That might make you feel good at the time, but I don't think you learn much from it.
Sure.
Whereas the kind of mentorship that I received was, it was gut wrenching. It was slap in the face kind of mentorship, blatant. You have stuffed up. This is what you did wrong. Like, you cannot do that again. It's very harsh feedback, and that was what molded me and made me more real and able to. Ironically, it toughened me for the market, because if your mentor is giving you harsh feedback, somebody who cares for you, somebody who has got no vested interest in whether you succeed or fail, but wants you to succeed, and they're giving you, have the ability to give you harsh feedback, and you can take it. When you go in the market, and you get negative feedback from the market where people are rejecting you, you can handle it and you can push through to the next one.
Yes.
So I think the right type of mentorship, the wrong type of mentorship is incredibly damaging, and I see this in South Africa today, and in fact across the globe, where there are these so-called mentors who are bring their own stuff to the interaction, their own fears, their own jealousies, their own biases into the discussion, and almost vicariously try to live through the other individual. So it's and to top it all, there's some of those so-called mentors are from a business point of view, from a I don't want to say academic point of view, because that's the wrong term, but from just understanding how business works, are completely incompetent. And so they translate that incompetence into their mentees, okay? Because the mentee knows none the better and says, well, if my mentor says this, therefore it must be true.
No, but you mentioned being tough, harsh, authentic, and competent. Now, I think I would add competent in terms of the qualities you should look for in a mentor.
Yeah.
And I think that's really valuable. And thank you for sharing that with us. I think that where to find a mentor is also something that is interesting for a number of people. It's not always a given. I think that a lot of the challenges that are being faced by our youth, unemployed youth in particular, is that they don't have role models to look up to. So there may be something. There are lots of programs around, but it's not always easily accessible or easy to be found. So that's a key point. Maybe we can do some more thinking about that offline. I'm sure that you know.
Yeah, but if I may respond to that, I think there is a notion, because mentorship in the business development services industry has become productized in a sense, as to these are what you deem to be mentors or coaches or whatever the case may be. So we look for that, but I never looked for a mentor. The mentors that the individuals that I mentored actually didn't seek a mentor. I sought them out, and mentors don't also have to be one person. It can be multiple people that can mentor you on different things. There can be somebody from a technical point of view can mentor you, from an emotional point of view can mentor you, from a just a strategy point of view can mentor. I have many people that I surround myself with that one can call mentor me. And what's that? What does mentor mean? It means that I can have a vulnerable, honest discussion with that individual, and would expect a honest response back in terms of what their view is, and it gives me an alternative point of view to round my thinking. What mentorship has become inadvertently has become private lessons. So you see, I've got a mentor. Mentorship should not be private lessons. If You can read, there's enough on Google, and there's enough podcasts, there's enough information out there where there's plenty of information.
Sure.
The mentorship that I think is authentic is ones where you have real discussions about issues and take in a different point of view. And here's the other thing, is it might not, you have to have the strength of character to say, well, that might, with all your authority, that might be true for you, but it's not true for me. And I've been there before, where my mentor, who is a dollar billionaire, would say something, and I say, but you don't understand the deep nuance of my context, and therefore I'm not following that, but I take that in to maybe hone a little bit of my thinking.
That's amazing. You're saying that it is your life. You have to, you know best at the end of the day, and it's important for you to take whatever advice you seek, whatever advice you get, and really mold it to your circumstances, and that's really key. And it's also for a mentor to know their place and not impose things that may not fit their mentee's particular circumstances. So that's also another quality to look for in a mentor: the ability to take a step back and know that no, this is not. Don't project.
Yeah.
Just allow your mentee to find a solution that fits them and their circumstances. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I think the last question in the crucible round that I wanted to ask you, because you have succeeded in creating this organization that has helped so many people, that is successful, the only only for-profit, keep it one, I keep it. And what has been, would you say, your greatest setback or failure to date?
Yeah, before I answer that, I'm going to just respond to your question. And you talk about successful. You will see I'm quite consistent with this, no matter who interviews me. I don't like the word successful. I don't think it's the right word. I think I'm succeeding in the process of. It's a verb. Because if you know what is in my mind as to where I think I should be and where I am, there's a huge delta between the two. So I don't think I'm successful in the least. I think I'm in the process of succeeding. So I just want to clear that up. What has been my biggest failure? I think on a business point of view, I think the first business that I got involved in, which was the New York Sausage Factory, which is a business I started, I had everything that an entrepreneur requires. I had the mentor, I had the money, I had the education, I had everything that you could dream of as you started a business, and yet I still failed. So that, because of the fact that it was the context that there was I took full responsibility for that. That was my biggest failure and I think the most important thing that happened to me, because when as a young person you fail, we naturally go and say it's because of this or that, and it will be either a government policy, or it will be a law, or it will be the financial crisis. There'll be something extraneous that will justify why you failed. Very few young entrepreneurs who fail will have the maturity to look into themselves in this. And myself included, I was looking all over for the reason why I failed. And because it was so obvious that I had everything, it was a very natural, easy conclusion that the reason I failed was because of me. And when you get that kind of lesson as a young person, it's a gift that has kept on giving, as they say in the advertising world. So that would be, from a business point of view, my biggest failure. In terms of other failures, sure, it's all the time. It's every week, it's every month, it's every day. But I don't have a bad relationship with failure. I really don't. I don't like it. No one likes it. But I don't believe it's the end. I always look for what's the gift in this. I deliberately look for the gift in the failure. So and my question, it's quite a lovely question, and I try and get my kids to say this. If this were a good thing, why would that be? Okay, if I look ahead and see that the reason this happened and the reason why it happened was good, it was a good, thank God this happened, what would the answer to that be? And then you start exploring different avenues. It forces you into a different place.
And that's incredible that you mentioned that. In my interview with Israel Noko, I think I'm sure you know him.
Yes.
He actually mentioned how resilience is key for success in entrepreneurship. They say persistence/resilience is really key. Being able to take 100 punches to the gut and stand up and take the 101st. And it's beautiful how I think you have a tool here that has allowed you to do that. Just a mindset shift. And I think that's really valuable. And I think my listeners will take that as well and on their journeys. So thank you. I know I will take it because that's awesome. That's for sure something I've also battled with. And to end off, Allon, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know now?
I would have been bolder, more aggressive. I think my biggest regret in terms of my journey is not so much the decisions I made. I made some very bold decisions that many people thought were crazy at the time. But I think what bothers me is that I didn't take full advantage of that. I feel I left lots of potential untapped. And so in certain opportunities, when you first to market, there's a huge opportunity to exploit more of that opportunity. But because then it was almost as if I was catching my breath after taking the big leap, that I was still catching my breath and didn't have the fitness and in fact, I'd be vulnerable to say the courage to carry on, to push it, to see how far I could go. And only now in my late 40s have I learned from that lesson. And my next chapter will take that lesson into account.
That's amazing. It's amazing. It's similar to something shared by Nick Benadol of the Gordon Institute of Business Science, who said that if anything, he would have wanted to be more aggressive, expanded Gibbs outside of South Africa, and maybe that's something to be left to the next generation. But in whatever he does next, he's definitely going to take that lesson on board as well. So it's for us, looking at you and people like Nick. Say, wow, they've been so bold to that step. But there's always a step to be even bolder. And that's something that once you realize. But at the same time, how do you balance that? Being too bold. How do you know what is too bold? And is there nothing?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you in the next chapter. But the point is that the sad thing is I don't know the answer to that question because I've never been there. I've never pushed that edge. I've always known that in the second when I've gone into a certain market, I've always known there was more potential. I know deep down inside, I know that I'm leaving something on the table. I'm not pushing it to the end. So I don't know what that feels like, and that I regret. I regret I can't answer your question.
No, but that's incredible. Thank you so much, Allon. I know you're a busy man, even looking at your phone. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your experiences and your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for joining us at foundersmetal.com. Gather your strength and strike while the iron's hot.